Hello and welcome back. If you're new here, my name is Coral. I'm an illustrator currently on a mission to create more pattern collections for my portfolio, so come along as I make another one today. A pattern collection is a group of patterns that you design around the same theme, and that collection will typically have anywhere from 8 to 12 patterns. That's considered a full collection, and anything less than that is typically a mini collection. Within that collection, you'll typically have different types of patterns as well. The first is going to be your hero print, which is going to be your most complex pattern, so that will typically have the most detail in it. The second type is a secondary print. Typically, it's just a little less complex than a hero print. That's really the only difference. And then you have a blender print. That's the simplest of the three, so the complexity kind of decreases as you go, but they're all supposed to complement each other. So whether it have the same colors, similar motifs, different elements that you reuse from one pattern to the next, they're all supposed to tie in some way or another. Now, why are they important and what are they used for? As an illustrator, if you're interested in licensing your artwork out to other companies, then a pattern or pattern collections can be really valuable to you. Because your designs are already in collections, it makes it that much easier for companies to actually take the entire collection or license the entire collection and turn that into a collection of, let's say, like school supplies, or license the entire collection for a fabric collection. Now that you have a little more information about pattern collections, let's get into the one we're making today. I typically start out by gathering inspo for my pattern collection, so I'll either look at places like Pinterest or Behance. Sometimes I'll take inspiration from photos that I've taken or just anything that piques my interest, really. For this one, I ended up going with Pinterest, so I'm just going through and looking up different photos that look interesting to me or kind of have the vibe I'm going for. For this collection, if you haven't realized it by now, I'm going with a fruit theme, kind of like summery farmer's market, something similar to that. And so after I'm done looking for inspo pictures, I'll come over and look for a color palette, not to necessarily like copy exactly from, but more so to give me inspiration on like what I'm going for. Sometimes you'll find color palettes that are really muted, and sometimes you'll find some that are super colorful. So if I find one and there's like a color that I like in it, then I will pick it out and then try and kind of rearrange my own color palette. So I'm just kind of going through and looking at things that are interesting to me, like this one. I really like the blue in it. Once I'm done looking for inspiration and color palettes and I kind of have an idea on what I want to make, then I'll go over to my sketchbook and start to finalize everything. This collection was a little bit easier to put together just because I kind of already had a theme in mind. I'm going off of my new collection of stickers and art print and some other fun goodies that I just launched. So I took pieces from that and tried to incorporate them into my pattern collection. So once I had that theme in mind, I went through and I just wrote down a bunch of things that I wanted to draw, or might be trendy at the moment or interesting to me, or some of them I already had like an idea of what I wanted to do in my head. So I went ahead and jotted all of those down, and then I narrowed it down to about 10 patterns and labeled them each the type of pattern that they're going to be, or that I assume that they would be. And then after that, I'm going to draw them out a little bit to get a better picture of the composition and the color. Didn't do this with my past patterns, but it actually makes designing go by a lot quicker than going into Adobe Illustrator with no idea other than just a word or a theme or whatever it is. So I'll have, I think, how many are in here? 2, 4, 6. I think I ended up with like 10 to 12 patterns, but having that and knowing which ones were going to be duplicates to have, like, you know, a secondary colorway or something helped a lot, because I didn't have to second guess what other patterns I could put together or kind of just pulling them out of thin air. Once I sketched them all out, I went through and redrew them, but with color this time. Now that I have all that done, here you can see my list of patterns that I was going to make, and they're all kind of set up and ready to go. So I headed into Adobe Illustrator and opened up a new file. And to make my life a little bit easier, I went ahead and took a picture of my sketchbook that had all of that information in it with the lists and the sketches and the colors and everything, and imported that into Adobe Illustrator so I had something to reference and look back at easily. So I'm first gonna start off with making the orange pattern. So the first thing I'm going to do before I start designing is go into my Procreate files, and I'm going to adjust this sticker design that I had. This is actually for a sticker that I made for my own collection, but I only want the orange that's in the middle. So I'm going to remove some of the background things and take off the outlines and stuff so that I can get a nice clear little orange to use in my pattern. And once I have all of my elements done, you'll see that I also made some little starburst shapes to use in the pattern. So once those shapes are all ready to go, I will select all of them, and then I'll go up to the make pattern option in Illustrator, and that'll put together a really rough pattern for me. Before you start moving anything around too much, what you're going to want to pay attention to is the width and height of your swatch that you're working on right now. Mine's on like some decimals, so I'm going to change that to 5 inches by 5 inches. I'm going to make the copies down here 9 by 9 so that it gives me a better idea of what my pattern looks like from a further away view. That way I can see any gaps that stand out or any weird like patterns that I'm accidentally making. But I'm just going to spend some time moving these around until I find something that I like. And you'll see here that I turned off the layer that has all the starbursts on them, just because it makes it a little bit easier to work with when you're only working with like one set of elements. Now, once I've moved that around and I have a good grasp on where the elements are going to sit and I like how it looks, I will click save or done at the top. And what that's going to do is just save this pattern swatch into my swatches panel on the side. And then what we're going to do from there is actually add a color to the background. So this is where it kind of gets a little more fun. I'm going to pull it out of the swatches panel. And what I'm going to do next is actually make a square, fill it with a color that I like or that I'm kind of envisioning using, and see how it looks. And we're going to try a green. Here is where I'm messing with the colors, trying to see what shade, what tone works best with it. I didn't want to go too dark because I still wanted to keep it like light and airy and summery. And after playing with all of those colors and all of those different combinations of starbursts and backgrounds, these are the two that I ended up with. What I'm going to do next is pull this swatch, each of these colored swatches, back into my swatch panel. And now I have both of those swatches saved. And there you go. Now you have your two functioning patterns. And this is where you can do kind of like a final check with like colors and check the composition of everything. If you see like a weird line or anything, then you can go back and fix it before you're fully done with it. Okay, now I'm just gonna go repeat that like 8 to 10 more times, and then I'll be back. Right, now we're back. And I have all of my patterns here. How many is this? This is what, 12? About a minute. I had to count. Yeah, it's 12. So I ended up with 12 patterns. I think I initially had like 10, maybe not, I don't know. So the banana has 2 different colorways, the oranges have 2 different colorways, the strawberry and the Starburst actually ended up having 3 different colorways. I think I only initially planned for 2. I was gonna do what was it? I was gonna do the tomato and Starburst pattern, but I didn't actually end up liking how it looked, so I scratched that one and ended up going with something else. I might actually exclude this one from the collection. I don't know. It feels like a little bit off, like it doesn't really belong there. But other than that one, the rest of them turned out really nice. Something I like to do at the end too is I'll put a lot of these swatches and patterns into mock-ups just to see how they would look on actual products, and it really helps visualize the pattern in the collection like as a whole instead of just staring at illustrated swatches where you don't actually know what it's going to look good on. So you can really see how diverse a pattern collection can be and what you can do with it. Anyways, that's all. Let me know what you thought of this collection, or if you would do anything differently or change any of the colors, or what your favorite pattern was. And yeah, thank you again for watching. Bye!